And we're live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Live Reality Games. And this is our first Survivor Angelica podcast in the year of 2022. Happy New Year, everybody. We hope that everybody stayed safe and didn't lose too much of their money. But with that being said, I'm Parker, and as always, with me is Nathan. Nathan, how you
You
doing?
didn't lose too much of your money? Am I missing something here?
No, I'm saying don't lose too much. I hope nobody lost too much of their money because it's New Year's, or because of New Year's.
So people go gambling on New Year's? Is that what you're getting at?
Oh, they buy a lot of drinks.
Oh, okay. I was
Well,
confused
Nathan, I
here.
was
Is there
about
like
to
a...
ask you what did you do on New Year's, but clearly you didn't do that.
This is a foreign concept to me of leaving the house, unless it's to go to class. Uh, I'm
So,
gambling. I'm gambling big on whether I should double space or 1.5 space this essay I'm working on.
so Nathan, in all seriousness, Nathan, how was your New Year?
Uh, it was fun actually. I had a good New Year.
Good.
Are you doing okay? Everything good with
Yeah,
Parker?
everything's good. Survivor Angelica is good. I didn't lose too much of my money, so I didn't gamble as well. So I didn't go. So I'm very happy that we can start off the new year with not one but two episodes of Survivor Angelica, Nathan. And obviously, it's been a few weeks since January 1st. We had some scheduling issues, but we're here now. But honestly, Nathan, I gotta say it might have worked out in our favor, considering that the two episodes we're going to be talking about kind of go hand in hand in a way, considering episode 5 ended on a cliffhanger that was then resolved in episode 6. So, well, what did you think about these two episodes overall?
This reminds me a bit, if anything, of the challenge,
Yeah.
where some seasons they'll have an established format and then they'll just kind of switch it up for like 2 or 3 episodes. So in this episode 5 doesn't have an elimination, and
Mm-hmm.
episode 6 has a tribal council midway through the episode and then has a challenge. So next week we're gonna have a tribal council at the beginning and then a merge, and I doubt
Right.
we're gonna get a tribal, so we're going very much MTV's The Challenge here. And we also have beer, so that's another
Yeah,
comparison
yeah,
there.
we have beer. We have beer. What, all the way back from the auction?
Yes, yes.
But I digress. I don't think they bought the beer at the auction, did they? I can't remember.
Uh,
They at least.
Jay found beer in the middle of the woods.
Oh, that's right, because he was holding a cup in his intro shot. So and they're getting beer at the merch, just like you said. Well, I mean, we are at the start of episode 7. That, we have to get to that tribal council before they merge, which we will talk all about that when we get there. But let's start off with episode 5. And Nathan, safe to say that episode 5 is the status quo shaking episode. Um, Jason walks up, and once again, we get to see more of how all these contestants really have a great relationship with Jason, because he just comes up and he says, "All right, let's go inside. Let's go inside," like a camp counselor. Like, if if this was me and Reelfoot with Amos coming to camp, I'd be terrified. I would think he'd be delivering bad news. But all these people are like, "Jason, so happy to see you."
Well,
So I thought that
apparently
was
all of
funny.
them are comfortable with Jason except for Alyssa, who says that she was extremely worried that they were being reprimanded. She was worried they were getting in trouble.
And that's me. That would be me, and I think most people in Reelfoot, because that's just what I would think would happen. But everybody is like, "Oh, Jason," so I don't know if Jason visits their cabins often, or if that's just the type of vibe he gets. I assume it's probably just the vibe he gives off. But I digress. Jason is going to tell both tribes that they need to write two names on the paper, two names of two members of the opposing tribe. And Nathan, we theorized this last podcast we did, that, oh, this has to be the swap from Survivor China.
Oh, definitely. No
Yeah.
doubt.
But it was not. In fact, what happens is what ends up happening is, from OG Basra, let me make sure I get the names right. Chelsea and Amy get picked, and from OG Malik, Taylor and Alyssa get picked, and they become their own tribe of 4. The Skulls tribe, in fact. Now, I honestly, I'm kind of annoyed at myself that I didn't see this coming because I have seen a twist like this be done before, only once in another live game, but I've
Which
never
one?
seen it done in Survivor BC a few
Really?
seasons
They did
back.
that in BC?
BC, a few. I think it was actually the season with Amos and Jessica. I keep referencing Amos. I don't know why, but I think it was in that season. But I only remembered it until after this the twist was revealed in this Angelica episode. But I've only ever seen it done there. If it's happened in another live game, I wouldn't know. But I definitely have not seen it in CBS Survivor, Australian Survivor, or any international Survivor. So to me, this is still a very unique and original twist because I haven't seen it be done that often. And Nathan, from your reaction, this is the first time you've seen it. So what do you, just in principle, what do you think about this idea, this way of doing a swap?
Well, I'd be curious in BC, like when you saw
Yeah.
it there, was it performed exactly like this, where the two tribes picked people from the other tribe and then that made a third tribe? Is
No,
that how that worked?
no. It ended up being the same, but the difference was instead of the two tribes picking the two members themselves, each there were the two tribes. It was two tribes of six, and um, both they had all it was basically a vague tree mail where two members had to volunteer to go do something, and the players assumed it would be maybe some type of challenge or like a summit of some sort, maybe picking new teams. So that's the only main difference is in BC they had to volunteer not knowing what it was for. Whereas in this one, again, the Angelica players didn't know what it was for, but they did have a say in which people were going to go over. So that was the only main difference.
The thing that overwhelmingly struck me when they were strategizing about this, because they spent a lot of time
They did.
showing us their thought processes here, um, there is no good way to strategize for this.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like, I don't know what thought process you're supposed to have, because there is an equal chance that this was just going to be the China thing.
Yeah.
And in that case, is it beneficial to have these two people on there? I don't know.
Well, and I was going to ask you because, and I think you hit on the head there, because in all honesty, I think there are ways to strategize here. But what's clever about the twist is because they still don't know exactly what it is, they can plan for one specific thing, like the China thing, and still not get what they want. You know what I mean? So it's almost one of those things where you just almost have to just cross your fingers, close your eyes, and hope for the best.
That was like a mix of several different phrases and one from Dan Foley right there.
Oh,
Cross
that's
your finger, close your eyes, and just hope what happens is good.
I you know what? I think I need to exit the podcast now. Being compared to Dan Foley was not how I wanted to start 2022. So I'll see myself out.
Beautiful.
But you're right. Dan Foley, he definitely had a way of I guess saying expressions. He did. Oh god, that guy. That guy was a joke. But you're right. I did just mix a couple of phrases there, didn't I? So, but I see what you're saying. Is without knowing fully what's going to happen, is there really even a right way to strategize? Because, like you said, we did see a lot of their strategy. Different ideas were being thrown around. Should we pick two people who we think are going to be super loyal to the OG tribe and we just knock them out? Should we pick two people who we think are on the outs who we could work with? Physical strength players, people are going to be threats and challenges, all that type of stuff. Why do you think, just again, we saw a lot of it. Just why do you think why do you think each team ended up picking the two people they picked? If you just had to take a guess.
So I feel like I'm very much related to Steve here, where everyone's talking like, oh, like Alyssa is good friends with so and so, and they played together in this season several years ago, so therefore it would be optimal to pick them for this. And meanwhile, Steve is, what are you guys talking about? We don't even know what the twist is here. Why are you
Right.
planning for this? So the entire time I was very, very confused. I think so their prediction, and
Yep.
both tribes thought this was going to happen, was that the two people they picked would be doing a schoolyard pick for
Yep.
the tribe swap. But
That
I don't
seems to be
understand how
what
that
they
works with
settled on.
4 people. I don't get it.
Maybe it's like the Survivor Amazon swap, whereas instead of just one person, drawing the tribes, it's two people there. Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, but why would you pick the representatives from the other tribe to do that? That it seems very random. I don't
I
get it.
think I think you're asking the question that, or I think you're basically implying what I'm also thinking here is that really, was there really that much strategy that could even be had here? Not even shading the players. It's just, I don't think they were given enough information to be able to really make a solid guess to begin with. So theorizing about how a schoolyard pick would make sense or anything like that was just going to be doomed from the start
I
for these
think
players.
I think in a vacuum, if I had to guess,
Yeah.
like if I'm thinking what production had in mind for this,
Yeah.
I think their thought process was, oh, they're gonna pick two big players from the other tribe,
Yeah.
thinking they're coming to there, when in reality they're forming a new super tribe. So you pick like two like challenge beasts from both teams, and then they just dominate the challenges or
Yeah.
something. I guess that's what they thought, but neither tribe really had that in mind.
No. I think it was an interesting idea. Again, like I said, I've rarely seen this idea. So, and you and I, not on this podcast, but you and I have talked about just, in our free time about how a swap is almost like expected every season of Survivor, and that includes fan made games. And after a while you just get kind of sick of seeing drawing buffs in a bag, or handing out a bag to everybody and opening it up to see what buff you have. So at the very least, I appreciate that they tried something new. I'm kind of with you. I think it was an interesting experiment, and I'm curious to see uh, how it's going to play out ultimately when we get to episode 7. But regardless, here's my last thought on it. I have a theory. Anytime you're in a situation like this in Survivor, fan made or not, when you know that you have to send someone away and they're either going to get really screwed over, or more than likely they're going to get some type of like power or ability to make a decision that'll affect your game, is it almost best to just send the person that is the most neutral option possible? Not the person who has too much power already and you really trust, but not the person who you don't trust at all and you don't want making any kind of decision. So is it almost good in a vacuum to send the most neutral option possible in situations like this?
Well, I think that's kind of what they ended up doing.
Yeah.
Granted, not for that reason,
Right,
but
right.
they didn't pick like
Hurt.
uh yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm
But
saying. They always go ahead, sorry.
they inadvertently picked people who all 4 of them were in fantastic positions on their team.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they saw them as the figurehead of the other team. So I guess
No.
that might be part of it. Is they picked people who they thought would be somewhat neutral.
Yeah. Because I think you hit on the head there. I think maybe if it wasn't their exact reasoning, they did end up going, they did end up qualifying for that reasoning, because you hear them talk about you hear Brett talk about in the cabin, Jay is someone who they might want to knock out, and then on the other team, you hear them talk about how, again, you hear the other team talk about how Brett's a threat, and notice that neither team picked Jay and neither team picked Brett, just for example. And like you said, they may have just ended up unintentionally or intentionally picking some very neutral players. But like you said, it is interesting that these 4 were plucked from the teams because all of them were in great positions. So now they almost have to start over essentially. But we, I, I was just going to quickly touch on it before we get to the swap itself. I really do want to commend Billy here, because we do have a conversation between Billy and Jay. And I have to say, Billy does a good job here, I thought, because he's been saying that instead of Jared going, he wanted to push Janet. And although he didn't get his way because Jared did go home, he did successfully get Jay, it seemed, on the idea of, oh, we need to target Janet. So I was just going to ask, what did you think of Billy's performance here talking to Jay?
So, do we know why he wants Janet out?
Well, he just talked about in the first episode, he didn't really feel like he had much of a connection. You know,
Yeah, I guess.
he felt like he had at least something with Jared, and Jared was kind of like a meat shield. Again, I understand that's kind of a mute point because Jared's gone, but at the very least, he's still getting Jay to think his way. Because as we're going to find out at the end of the episode, Billy feels like Jay is running the show in that 5-person alliance, and him and Sarah on the outs. So it's good if he can. I think he's trying to divert Jay from any attention off. He's trying to divert any attention off himself when it comes to Jay.
Maybe I'm misreading this, but the read I got based on the last episode was that if they went to tribal again, Janet was gone anyway.
I think
like
so.
Maybe Steve was the other target, but
yeah,
we have these weird scenes in these episodes where it's like Jay presents himself and everyone else presents Jay as this like mastermind who's like
he's won
running the whole
game.
game. But like in all these conversations, it seems very one-sided.
Mhm.
Like he's trying to have a conversation with Amy and Amy doesn't really seem to be reciprocating as much.
Right.
And similarly here, it seemed like Billy was more on the upswing based on this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like you said, there was a chance that Janet would have gone home anyway had they not swapped, but Steve was in contention. I mean, we saw again. We didn't hear Jay say he was trying to, mess with Billy's, and he did pitch Steve's name to Billy, and Billy was trying to say, oh, whoa, I think Steve would be loyal, so why don't we go with Jen instead? So I do think there was a possibility Jay was trying to go for Steve here, but Billy happened to, at least pitching that to Billy, but Billy managed to get it back on Janet. So I did want to give kudos to Billy for that. Again, we're going to end up swapping anyway, but I do think this conversation, if nothing else, even though it didn't really have an impact on this episode or the next one, I do think the editors might be setting something up where where either Billy's going to take out Jay with the help of Sarah and a few other people, or Jay may be able to escape it. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it might be communicating that Billy has some kind of otherworldly powers because he wasn't even on a tribe when Janet went home, but he put it out into the ether.
Yep,
and through some
that's
kind
true.
of wizardry, Janet went home anyway.
He manifested it.
Exactly. Confirmed.
So, speaking of new tribes, Jason is going to have the other 8 remaining players on Basra and Malik come up, and although he's going to tell them we're going to do a fake challenge, we end up dropping our buffs as well. And there was a small Kurt moment, and as we never shout out Kurt's moments on this podcast, so I feel the need to do it now.
Yeah, he's really under the radar as a character here.
Yeah, I love the moment when Jason gives I forgot the name of the challenge he says. It's like bucket something.
Dude, you better believe I have this in my notes.
Please say it.
It was Bozo's Bucket Brigade. Bozo's Bucket Brigade.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
That's the challenge, maybe.
Yes, and I loved it. And what I love about it is Jason doesn't explain the challenge. He just says the name. There's an awkward pause, and then you just cut to Kurt going, "Yay!" And I just love. And then a few other people do it after, but Kurt started. I just love that no matter what the situation is, Kurt is just going to do Kurt.
That was a weird thing because they paused like this was a common challenge. Like, oh, everyone loves Bozo's Bucket Brigade. And so Kurt starts cheering like, yay. And the other people start cheering it, coming in as well. And then, oh no, drop your buffs.
So, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong. We're not watching Survivor All-Stars here, right? Because what ends up happening is even though we swap here with these 8 people, the only change that happens is the only thing that happens is Janet is now with the three Malik boys, and and of course we have to switch cabins. The
Yeah.
colors are different, but the people are all the same, except for poor Janet. So I did write it down. The new tribes is New Basra is Chad, Brett, Kurt, and Janet, and New Malik is Billy, Sarah, Jay, and Steve. So obviously, well, first of all, what are the odds that there's only going to be one change here?
Um, I think they got really unlucky here
Mm-hmm.
with the way this swap turned out.
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe not. Because there's an alternate universe here where Bossor wins.
Yeah.
Well, even then though,
Well,
like I don't think the Malik Tribal Council would have been that riveting. I think they would have just done 3-1, gotten rid of Steve.
yeah. I think. Well, I'm kind of with you, and I'm kind of not. I do think they got unlucky because, unfortunately, Janet, who was on the outs of her original tribe anyway, is the one who swap screwed here, and then she does end up getting voted off. But I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been literally, I don't know, someone like Kurt or Chad are just swap screwed, anyway.
Yeah.
And then we go into a merge with even less of a chance of original Malik having a chance at the merge. So if nothing else, we don't end up losing again. Depending on what happens in episode 7, at least at this episode 6 tribal, we don't end up losing an original Malik. So I guess that's good. But I'm with you. It's good and bad. It's good in the sense that we have a chance at evening up original tribe numbers, but it's bad that unfortunately Janet is the one that has to end up falling here.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. Just in an ideal world, you'd get 2-on-2, and there'd be some kind of drama here, which I guess we're getting in the next episode.
Yeah.
But as is, I mean, it was clear Janet was going in this scenario.
Well, they couldn't even get 2-2 in this specific instance because it was 5-3. I think the production just got unlucky that that Malik couldn't have won at least one more challenge pre-swap, because then it would have been 6-6 rather than 7-5. Because like you said, we are going to get the 2-2 next episode, but there wasn't enough to do 2-2 in this 8-person swap. So, but yeah, I mean, we anything else about just this these new swaps here, or these 3 new swap teams, I guess.
So I think clearly the most interesting team to talk about is the new what's the name of their tribe again?
I'm glad you asked.
Oh, Skulls?
The Skulls tribe.
Oh, beautiful. Speaking of the challenge,
they have the best name, and they get the the worst shelter.
they get awesome buffs, by the way. Like I know black buffs are somewhat like cliched at this point, but it's a really cool, like gritty black and white combo.
Well,
I love the Skulls buffs here.
How often do you see a black buff for a pre-merge tribe?
I think we've seen it like maybe twice.
Yeah, I only really ever recall it as like a merge buff color, So yeah. It's cool to see it. I love the buff, like you said, and it's easily the most interesting tribe. But within not even I don't know how long they were actually, but in the episode, it's almost like they were not even there for 5 minutes. We're gonna have an advantage come in with the Skulls tribe, Nathan, and they are going to find it.
Yes.
Do you want to explain to the viewers what this advantage is? Because I will admit, I have never seen an advantage like this. This is new for me.
I'm still not certain I've seen an advantage like this.
Yeah.
After watching the episode. So the advantage here, which Chelsea found the initial clue to it, I believe.
Yes.
So the advantage is if you get anything but last place in the challenge, you can go in, and as long as it's a unanimous choice, you can cast a vote at the tribal council of the losing team.
Right. And
do we know the consequences if it's not unanimous?
They just don't get to cast one, I believe.
Yeah. I guess in a sense production got lucky here that this tribe was even willing to cast a vote together.
Yeah.
Because it would be difficult to find very many swap teams where everyone's on board with the same vote in that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and honestly, I'm with you. I'm kind of surprised they came to. Well, actually, I'm not surprised because of information we're going to talk about in a second that we end up getting. A bomb is dropped, but I am surprised. I am surprised that this tribe was able to come to a decision here because, like you said, in most of these swap situations, they are not going to be on the same page because they are going to be unless they just are like, I hate my original tribe, I'm done with them. Most people in these swap situations are incentivized to want to keep their original tribe numbers in the game. So, and the fact you have it 2-2 here could have easily meant that we wouldn't have gone to see a vote. We do end up seeing one though. So this is an interesting idea here, Nathan. What do you think if you're production and you're going to put this tribe is going to be 2-2? What are you hoping comes out of this?
I guess I guess theoretically you want the team that got or the person who got swap screwed, you want to give them a chance.
Yeah, right.
Um
Which is what ends up happening in a way.
I just don't know how anyone could ever coordinate that.
Right.
Like, oh, I know for a fact that the people on the other tribe are all unanimously going to agree to vote for this one specific person. So I'm going to coordinate my vote with that. And also, I have another person who we could force a tie with. It's just a lot of varying circumstances you'd need.
I think I'm kind of with you. I think if I'm on production, I think, and we do kind of end up seeing. I think if nothing else, I want you want it to be a looming threat in the majority alliance on the swap tribe's mind. You know that, oh shoot, this could end up helping the minority player in a way. In this case, it ended up being Janet. You know, we hear each of the three guys talk to Janet, and each of them reference how I don't know what's going to happen with this vote. I don't know what's going on that team. So, if nothing else, I think production is wanting it to be a, if not like a thorn in the side of the majority alliance. You know, almost like an idol in a way. That it's like even if there's not one, you want them to think that. So I do think it's meant to stir up some paranoia.
I'm just trying to think of any situation where this would play out to where it would change the outcome.
It'd have to be where it's a 2-2 on the swap.
So what you would need to have happen in this scenario, so it has to be a 2v2 on here. Yeah. And then you also need the tribe that has this advantage. You need them to not only agree but also know exactly where the votes are going from those two.
Right.
And so because of that, because you need them all to agree, you need all of them, you need the people who were from the other tribe to either all be from the previous tribe or have, if they are mixed, have them be people who hated their previous tribe.
Yeah.
So it's it's a lot of variables here.
Just a few factors.
Yeah.
I guess you could hope that well, let me ask you this. Would it have do you think there would have been any intrigue in, because we don't see any of the four members of the Skulls tribe go back to camp with the Basra team. What do you think? Do you think something could have come from the Skulls tribe having to send someone over to go back to camp and strategize with the Basra team?
I mean, it definitely would have added more variables to it, because at least then you could say, oh, just flip to our side for this one vote and you can become the power player, that kind of thing.
Right.
I thinking about it more, I think this twist would have definitely been more interesting if Malik went to tribal council, because those people are all from the same tribe.
Yeah,
and tribe. The original Malik people in Alyssa and Taylor, they don't really have any reason to object to whatever the original
That's true.
Basra people tell them.
Yeah.
So that could potentially shake things up in that way. So
Right.
thinking about it, I guess it could have played more of a part there.
Well, I'm with you. I think overall, this is the type of twist that will always like put doubt in people's minds and will cause them to think of alternative uh, plans and voting strategies. Whether or not they come into effect is one thing, but it will always cause them to think. But like you said, if you get, it's one of those things where if the stars align and it hits right how it needs to, like you said, either if it's a 2-2 or even just in this situation, if the new Malik tribe lost, it could have been served to make a big move, like you said, and it would have been all Amy and Chelsea, because like you said, Taylor and Alyssa, they don't really have a set. They don't really know what's going on in the from that original team, so they have no reason to object, like you said. So for all, Chelsea and Amy would have maybe been able to make a big move for all we knew. So I do think it's an interesting advantage. I wouldn't mind seeing again in other live games or even in the future of Angelica, and I'm glad they tried it. But I'm with you.
Definitely
There is a
not
lot of variables.
overpowered. If
No.
anything, it's underpowered,
Yeah.
which I appreciate a twist that isn't just ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
One thing I do like to look at when thinking of twists is obviously it's interesting. How can you play this perfectly? What's the ideal, like, crazy 10 vote, you idle yourself and 10 votes are cast against you and you're able to idle someone out, that kind of thing. But what I like to look at with these twists is, how do you just totally screw it up? How does someone just make a total idiot out of themselves with a move like this?
Yeah.
So I guess theoretically you could, like, just throw a vote saying, like, oh, I don't know where the votes are going. I don't know where that tribe is voting. I don't want to get idled out here, so I'm gonna throw a vote. And then that ends up biting you, maybe.
It kind of reminds me of the I think they did in Guatemala, and I know they did at least one other season in old school CBS Survivor, where one person from the other team would attend the tribal and would either cast a vote or like give immunity to one player that they thought was going to be in trouble and they wanted to save. So this kind of reminds me of that, except now they got an entire tribe involved. So there was definitely shades of that. But I'm with you. I appreciate twists in this like, you know, with how Survivor's going with all these new twists and advantages, that seems to be the direction we're going. I appreciate a twist and advantage that is not so overpowered that it can directly send someone home. Again, like we've talked about, it could be the reason someone goes home in this instance, but more often than not, either the tribe won't agree to even vote on one person, or it won't be enough to where it'll directly send somebody home. So I appreciate that it wasn't overpowered. I'm with you.
I love how that's the point we're at with modern US Survivor is, well, this twist isn't perfect, but it doesn't totally destroy the fabric of the game. So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, as much as we all love the overpowered Idle Nullifier and Edge of
ooh,
Extinction, as much as we all love that, I'm with you. The bar is sadly very low. I just got very depressed as you said that. Wow, the bar is that low, isn't it? With like the real show, isn't it? Like the idea of like a twist that, wow, doesn't completely screw somebody over or eradicate the very idea of Survivor itself. Yeah, that's really good.
I think for twists, you're always looking for something like in between the diagram of, on this side is the super idol, and on this side is like the medallion of power. So I think this falls like somewhere in the middle there. So in
Yeah,
terms of actual usefulness, so I
yeah,
appreciate that aspect.
right, absolutely. Um, So we talked about the twist here, this advantage here, because it is going to play a part in episode 5 and 6. But the I think the real big moment, other than the advantage of episode 5 here, Nathan, is we get a bomb drop of information from Amy here.
Yeah, I
Um,
was convinced I like dreamt this. I'm not I swear I'm not kidding here. I was worried that I was going to get on this episode and discuss this fact and you're going to say, "Oh no, Nathan, that didn't really happen. You're hearing things here." Because it's such a huge reveal, but it's
yeah.
not treated by the confessionals and the like players as though this is that huge of a bit of information.
Well, I mean, it's not as big as Steve and Janet's connection.
I
Come on, Nathan.
yeah.
Like, Steve. What was it again? Steve's wife went to the same gym as Janet once upon a time. What was
How
that?
could you ever forget this, Parker? That changed the game.
So that's what I'm saying. That was a bigger deal than the fact that Amy is Taylor's mom. But in all seriousness here, wow, does this change everything? Like,
Yeah, this is
this
like a
puts a whole
Saw-esque
thing.
twist. This is the
Yeah.
body getting up off the bathroom floor. And it's so nonchalant in the episode. It's really intriguing.
You and I will understand this reference. Maybe a few people watching this will, but this is like Daniel and David from Real Foot season 2 levels of a reveal.
Yeah, but this is like interesting in that David and Daniel, they like were running the game from both of their teams,
Yes.
but they were like the figurehead of both of their teams. Whereas this is like potentially even more powerful because they were both in the middle of their
Yeah.
teams. So
Very
they
true.
know where everybody is in the game. Like this
Yes.
is insane.
These are two, you couldn't have hit on the head better. These are two power players on their original tribes. But unlike Daniel and David, who had those big targets on their backs and were seen as figureheads, these ladies aren't seen as figureheads. I don't even like, so they don't even have that target coming in, and this is still a secret. Like, like Daniel and David ended up telling people, because I guess they were afraid that people were going to find out, or they felt guilty about lying about it. As far right now, nobody in the game knows this. Not even Chelsea, who is like Amy's number one from that original tribe. So this is mind blowing of a reveal, which is what I was alluding to earlier, makes me feel like it was not as difficult for the four of them to come to an agreement on which vote to cast, because Amy and Taylor are obviously on board, and then all they had to do was just make sure Alyssa and Chelsea just didn't argue against it. So I'm not surprised they could come to an agreement on this. But that's the biggest reveal we get.
I
So
really don't
go
see
ahead.
a strong family resemblance either. Like,
No,
granted, I haven't like looked at this from like a very deep point of view, but when they revealed that, that's part of why it was so shocking. Is it's not like, oh, these two looked exactly the same. It all comes together now.
no.
No, I they do not even look that similar to each other, at least in my opinion.
This did When this was said, this was no exaggeration. I'm not even keep trying to use this language. A bombshell, like, of information, because I did not put these two and two together. Like you said, sometimes people who are related, or you know are mother and daughter or whatever, who end up being in these games together, like, at least you can see somewhat of resemblance, and it's kind of hard to hide from the other players. Like in Real for season 1, you got like Evan and Darren. I think those two look alike,
Yeah.
is the reason I bring it up. Whereas I didn't get that from these two, and it wasn't and brilliantly, the editors did a great job. It hasn't been alluded to at all in the first 4 episodes. You know that you have to imagine Amy and Taylor have referenced it in at least one of their confessionals up to this point, but the editors have cleverly been hiding it. And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say this is now the storyline to watch going into the next few episodes.
Yeah, because like Taylor was in a very good spot for
Yeah.
Malik, but Amy was straight up running Astra.
Yeah.
And she's not even in the J position where people are targeting her.
No.
So I mean, obviously things can shake up in all of this, but
Sure.
these two are huge favorites to make it very deep in the game, right?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Like unless Taylor wants to pull the Sierra, I voted out my mom strategy, which I don't know why she would do that unless it absolutely benefits her. These two could run away with it if they played their cards right.
Would you vote out your mom, Parker?
How much money? No. Probably not. Would you?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Granted, it's kind of a moot point because she would never be on the show,
No,
but
right. Well, it's like that question I asked you that one time, like for fun. Would you rather vote out a loved one on Survivor or be on Amazing Race with someone you hate? It's like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
in that instance, I'd rather like vote out someone I love, but that's only because the other option is so horrid.
yeah.
Like if I exclude the Amazing Race part, if I just have the choice of voting out my mom or not, I'm probably not going to do it. Like, come on.
Low key, your mom would be great on one of these games, though.
Oh,
Like, I think your mom would be entertaining.
well, thank you.
Can't you see it?
I think she's entertaining. I just don't
Yeah,
think she'd do it. Like, the
yeah,
problem is, I'm kind of like you. Like, I've interacted with your mom just a few times. I think she'd be entertaining as well. And you've interacted with my mom, but like, both of us are in a position where it's like this won't happen.
yeah. That's the
So
conundrum with reality TV casting: is the best people who would ever be on these shows are
yeah,
people who wouldn't be caught dead on these shows.
no. It's like like I said, that is the conundrum, because it's like we can fantasize about how entertaining our family member or this celebrity or our friend would be, but it's like this isn't going to happen. So it doesn't escape just thinking about it.
I will put an asterisk around that. The people who would be best on here would not compete, except for Kurt. Kurt is the
Yes,
one like unicorn here. We are.
So we do. I do want to say, I know we've gone on for it a little bit. The last point that I have about episode 5 is we do at least get a conversation from Billy and Sarah from their point of view about how they see the game. And Billy and Sarah see themselves at the bottom of the original 5 from their original tribe here. And just obviously nothing's going to come from it because they do win immunity the next 2 rounds. But like, are Billy and Sarah in a good position or not, do you think? Because on one hand, if they are on the bottom of the 5, they're not in a good position. But like, the fact that at least they think they're in a bad position this early on, and there's still some other players in the game that they can work with to get out of the bottom, that's a good thing. But what do you think of Billy and Sarah's realization here?
Based on their challenge performance and the way they're voting people out, I would say Billy and Sarah, if the tribes never swapped, had about 9 rounds before they needed to start to be worried about all of this.
Right? Right?
It's very much like a Karor strategy talk where it's just, yeah, I guess we're in a bad spot, but there's almost no chance that we're ever even going to tribal council. And
Yeah,
even
they're
if we do,
basically
I mean,
like
we're not going right now.
they're basically like Karor when they're voting out Willard, where 5 seconds of that time is spent talking about voting out Willard, and the entire rest of it is planning for when they lose again.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if they went back to tribal, like it would have been Janet or Steve. And even so, even if this 4-person tribe with Sarah and Billy lost, I have to imagine these two are calling the shots, right? Just for
Yeah.
the fact that they're sticking together. They easily could have voted out Steve, or they could have made a big move and voted out Jay, but they're in this 4, they're not in a bad position.
Well, even then, I mean, being in a final like 5 alliance in the tribe that's dominating the challenges, and like it's not even like you're a total pariah there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some discussion on whether you'll be the 4th and 5th there. I mean, I'd sign on the dotted line for that position. But I
Right.
appreciate the fact that they're trying to better themselves now.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I like that they're taking an active, because you and I have talked about this before, and I think we've alluded to a little bit on the podcast. two different types of players in this game. There's the people who play to win and the people who play to get far. And I'm not saying either strategy is bad necessarily, but you can get so sucked into the experience that you're just playing to get as many rounds as possible. Whereas Sarah and Billy have both played games before, so they know they've had the experience, and you can tell here they're trying to win. So I appreciate how active they're playing here, at least trying to plan long term despite their relatively good position right now, because you're not going to be in a good position forever. Like, I understand what you're saying, like they are in the majority alliance on the team that's winning challenges, but when you get to the five, if all things go according to plan, you have to worry. Then it's, all gloves are off. Then your previous good position doesn't matter. And yeah, are they planning Are they planning for rounds in advance? They absolutely are. But I think I agree with you. Whereas I appreciate that they're trying to not fall victim of, I'm just here for the experience and I'm OG boss or strong. So I appreciate that from them.
There's also a weird moment during this conversation where they're theorizing about what the twist will be, and I forget what exactly he said, but Billy's like, "I don't know what's gonna happen," and then it like freezes on Billy's face, like bump bump bump, like zooms in, and then it like fades. It's as though like Survivor Angelica will be back after these messages, like very Full House, and sure enough, they did fade at that point, and
Yeah,
it was a break.
I was waiting for the Seinfeld music.
Bam, 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 bam. That's horrible Seinfeld music impression right there.
Oh, I just had no idea what that music was, but
I mean,
I'm kidding. But you're right. That was a funny editing moment there. I forgot about that, but you're right. That did happen, and I didn't see it coming, but I did get a chuckle out of that. But yeah. Anything else from episode 5?
Did we didn't get the challenge. We got that in 6, right?
Yeah, there was no the well, we actually got 2 challenges in 6, but you're right. The challenge in question was at the start of 6. So if you want, we can jump into 6.
Okay, so I remember the name of this challenge. It's called Quacks. Quacks,
Quacks.
the immunity challenge. Which this challenge reminded me of a card game that's a lot of fun called Push. Have you ever played that before?
I haven't.
So basically, the way this challenge is set up is there's a certain number of red balls in the bag and green balls, and they have numbers on them if they're green. And you're trying to get as many spaces on the board as possible, and you could drop out if you feel like you're drawing too many red balls so you don't lose your progress, or if
Right.
you want to gain a reward. Um, like Battleship, I actually really like this challenge.
Yep.
I don't it was a little confusing to keep up with the scoring though here.
Yeah. I will give the editors a shout out here before I talk about the challenge. I want to give the editors a shout out because I think this is the first episode they've done this. Not that the challenges of the rules have necessarily been difficult to follow so far, but I really appreciate how the editors for these 2 challenges this episode, as Jason was explaining the instructions, the editors put each rule for the challenge as it was being said on screen in bold text for the viewer to read and follow along with. So I thought that was a nice way of uh, following along with the rules as they were being said. So I appreciate the editors doing that.
This is one of the rare challenges where again, it kind of just feels like something you would play for fun.
Yeah.
I liked the risk reward element to it, and it also leaves room. We didn't really see it here, but for someone to just get totally screwed. Um, like whenever I played the card game equivalent to this, there's always one guy who statistically there's almost no chance he's gonna draw a red. And then of course the very next thing he draws is a red.
I
Um
think one round, or I think when Steve went, he got like 3 reds in a row.
yeah, exactly.
So like he just didn't get anything. But I'm with you. This is definitely a challenge you can do at home, which adds fun for the viewer. And I can see people doing this at home, honestly, like at like a family get together or just like if you're out with friends trying to replicate Survivor. I like that. I liked, like you said, the risk reward of Like if you're the person pulling the ball out of the bag, like even if you want the person stepping on the tiles to stop, it's up to the person stepping on the tiles if they want to keep going. So even if the person in the bag is like, okay, you have 2 red balls, don't go anymore. It's not up to them. It's up to the person on the tiles. So it can definitely lead to some uh, uh, the players getting a look into the personalities and different types of characteristics of the people they're playing with. So I do like that aspect of any challenge you can do that obviously, but it's a challenge that you can get to see how risk averse players are, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm one, just like with Battleship, I'm not one who's against luck based challenges. Again, do I need every challenge to be like that? No. But we always talk about how there are some challenges where some of the players are just never going to have a shot at, especially when you get to the individual stages. Luck based challenges don't benefit anybody. And there was still skill involved, like you said. You had to choose if you wanted to keep going or not. But like, there was a lot of luck involved, and it didn't benefit any team in particular. So I don't mind luck challenges for that reason. Like you said, it was a little confusing to follow along with the scoring aspect because the tiles. It was easy for the players, I'm sure, because the tiles had the number of points they could get on the ground, but it was kind of difficult to see from a viewer standpoint, which would probably be my only critique just from a viewing standpoint. But other than that, it was a simple, fun challenge to follow along with, and I've never seen this challenge done before. Like you said, you've seen something similar in that card game you mentioned, but I've never seen anything like it in a Survivor game.
My critique here is because I like this challenge. Like I would, full disclosure here, I would be open to stealing this for real foot. Like
Yeah,
I like it that much. My only complaint here is I think this would function better as a reward challenge
yeah,
because
I agree
then
with that.
the reward element makes more sense. Like, do you work? So let me pitch this here. It's
Okay.
like granted this wouldn't work so well because of the conditions being different,
Yeah.
but like let's say the reward up for grabs is like a bag of rice, like something super boring, or like a tarp.
Yeah.
um but in the middle there's just stupid stuff that would be like really fun to have like in the moment. So you go round by round and like, okay, you could stop and eat this like chili cheese dog, but
Okay,
you're
Sonic.
totally screwing over your tribe. Like that would be an interesting conundrum here,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I'm with you. I think it might function a little better as a reward. I also think if you want to do it for immunity, I think it might function a little bit better as like an early individual immunity. Because, like you said, there are just some individual immunities, especially ones that are very reliant on strength and speed and balance, that some people are just going to have a clear advantage in over other players, which is fine. That's the nature of the beast. But again, luck doesn't benefit anybody. So I think it might work well for an early individual immunity challenge or a war challenge, like you said. Again, I like it played out well here. I'm not complaining about it at all, but I'm kind of with you. I wonder if it would work. I'm wondering if how it could have played out if it was a reward challenge in the tribal stage or an early individual immunity, like I said.
Well, let's talk it out. How would you do this as an individual challenge?
Probably just have just the each person go one at a time. They have their own tiles lined up like we saw in the episode. The only difference is instead of a team member pulling out the bags, it's a member of production, you know. And you don't make them go too many rounds, probably no each person doesn't get to go more than probably 3 times, maybe even 2, depending on how many people are there. And then nothing else about the challenge is different. You just have to decide when you're going to step off the tiles and when you're going to keep going, and whoever has the most points at the end wins.
My only concern with that, because we Parker and I texted about this challenge before
Mhm.
the show, and I said too that I thought it would be a good individual challenge.
Yeah.
My only concern with that is if you did that, this challenge might go like forever. Because
Right.
let's say you do this with 9 people.
Yeah.
That's how many draws for like one round.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're
Right.
gonna
Right. Right.
draw from the bag like 80 times over the course of this one challenge.
Right. 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 That is a concern. Absolutely, that it could just take a while. So it's definitely something you need to have time for. But other than
We actually got an interesting comment from the Survivor Angelica Facebook page.
oh,
I'm
what's
gonna bring
up?
that up here. They said we actually had hope for the selfishness to come into play. We had great advantages 2 spaces in, plus some random rewards in the middle. Which
Yeah.
that's interesting. I don't remember seeing the advantages come into play. Did you?
So Jason definitely mentioned that there are advantages out there, just nobody took them. Um, which like this comment saying, I think if which is to your point, maybe if it was more for reward, people would be more willing to be selfish. I mean, not necessarily selfish, but we saw in the auction all the way back in episode one that some people were a little bit frivolous with the money. And if this might have been a reward challenge, we might have seen that same level of self-interestedness, come into play. So I'm with this comment here that I think it could have been very intriguing if we got some more selfish play out of it. And again, I no knock on it at all. It was a fun challenge. I enjoyed watching it, but I think because it was immunity, there wasn't as much room for that selfishness.
That would be really like a baller move right there. If you just totally screw over your whole tribe and
Yeah,
everyone in the game knows you have a secret advantage.
yeah,
I,
that would be
I
pretty
want to see
baller.
that happen now. I hope they do this challenge next season.
I'm with you. Full disclosure, I wouldn't mind doing this for real foot. I hope this. I don't know if this is a Angelica staple, but I think it's been fun. I hope it comes back next time. I enjoy the challenge overall. Anything else specifically on the challenge before we get to the results?
Oh, good lord. We haven't even gotten to by far the best part of this challenge, which is the ball pickers, I guess you would call them. So
Okay.
this was a whole role for this challenge, which
Yep.
it's kind of like in Vanuatu where they had the gatekeeper, like for that pig challenge where you literally just have to open up the gate, where it's like, okay, reach into the bag and grab a ball. This is
Yep.
like my real foot challenge wet dream here. Like, okay, Nathan, you're in the challenge. Uh, there's no way to mess it up. And in one person's case, he actually performed immensely well. And that is Kurt doing like hypnotic moves while getting the ball. And I think it had to be his intro shot because he has this amazing. Or was that in an earlier episode? Because Kurt does this in like his intro shot. It's like, yeah, do you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
I know the intro shot you're referring to. I can't remember if it's this specific challenge.
Yeah, it's very Jim Carrey, I guess you'd say.
I just leave it to Kurt that the most mundane task. He's literally just drawing a ball out of a bag can make something out of it. Like it's there's nothing wrong with how anybody else did it. It's just the fact that Kurt decided to add, I guess, a little pizzazz to it, which just makes it funny. And it's just a reminder that Kurt is just so good.
Do you remember who the other ball pickers even were in this?
I
Because
know
in my
I know
memory, it's literally just Kurt, and I watched this like a few hours ago.
Taylor did it for Skulls. Who did it for crap? Who did it for
Was it
Malik? Steve went on the thing. I know it was either Billy or Jay. I think it was Jay. I
yeah,
could be wrong.
people, if you want us to talk about you as a ball picker, you got to make more interesting movements while doing it.
Maybe someone in the comments knows. If I think it was Jay though.
Yeah, Jay, if you're such a master of the game, surely you could pick the ball better. Come on. No, I'm just
I mean,
kidding.
I think he did a pretty good job because his team ends up winning.
Yeah, that's this is another case where the challenges here are physical strength isn't that big of an asset here. Like
No, but not even Kurt's dance moves. his dance moves in the blindfold challenge in episode 4 saved this team clearly, but they unfortunately do not save his team here.
Yeah, at a certain point here, it's just comedic to plea like, "Hey guys, keep me in, keep the team strong. We don't know if someone will have the fortitude to reach into a bag next time.
Or
Like
play
my
Battleship.
battleship skills are the next level."
I hope one of these people pitched that as I'm good for challenge strength.
Yeah, yeah.
but it okay. So Skulls and Malik are gonna win immunity, and okay, at what point can we call this trio of Chad, Brett, and Kurt the new Manu from Edge of Extinction? Because it doesn't matter what color the buff or the camp, they just can't win.
Yeah, and it's counterintuitive because um like Chad and Brett are two of the more physically fit people in the game.
Yeah.
But as we've established, I mean, with some of these challenges, that doesn't matter, which that's a
Well,
compliment. So,
watch the. Well, I mean, remember in episode 4, Brett makes a comment about how Kurt has just kind of done his own thing in some of the challenges, and I would love it if they would try to sell this as, Kurt didn't do the correct ball picking strategy. He went and did his own thing.
They need Pete Morgan on this season to blame Kurt for picking the ball the wrong way.
Well, Kurt really didn't do a good job there.
I hate to say it, but
I could have done better, but that's why I didn't do it. Time for Kurt to go. But in all seriousness, we do see Chad, Kurt, Brett, and Janet go back to travel. And okay, you can. I guess this challenge is kind of easy to throw. If you get 2 strikes, you just keep going. But like, in a way, these three guys should be throwing this challenge, right?
Well, I don't know if they should,
Okay.
because if the Skulls team loses, granted that might be a bad thing, but they
Right.
don't know, it's a tie.
Yeah.
And if the Malik team loses,
Well, that's
then
ideal if Malik
yeah.
loses.
So, but I guess to be honest here, there's not really a huge lose scenario in any of these things. To
That's
me,
true.
I would be trying to win just in case there's another tribal council. I don't want to have to vote out one of the 3.
Right.
Well,
No,
like,
I'm
would
with
you throw
you.
it here? You wouldn't
No,
throw it.
I'm with you because I wouldn't throw it in the next challenge we see in the episode. I definitely wouldn't throw that, but the thought would cross my mind, but now that I'm thinking through it more logically, there's just too many variables. One is I don't even know if I'd feel comfortable enough in a group setting of 4 because, and as we see, Brett and Chad really don't even trust Kurt to begin with. So it's like that he's not, maybe if it was Taylor and Alyssa instead, they would feel more comfortable. But the fact that their third quote unquote they don't even feel like they can rely on him, that's not a good sign. So if I'm in their position and I'm with a third that I don't even feel that good about, I guess I wouldn't feel that comfortable. And also, you just never know. Janet could have an idol for all you know. And then well, I'm just saying, like, then you're guaranteed to lose. And like you said, since it's just Janet and the 3 of you, if you lose this challenge, if you throw this challenge and then lose the next one, then it's pretty counterintuitive anyway, because you're just going to lose an original member. It's hard to, it's hard to gain back the momentum after you've lost one. It just is. So throwing it potentially, but then trying to come back and win, it's just not easy. Not impossible, but not easy. So it probably is not a good idea to throw here. Again, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I would have. I just wanted to ask what you thought, if there was any benefit to throwing. And I'm kind
For
of
the record, I wasn't laughing at the prospect of Janet having an idol. Like, because that's like a legitimate concern you should have. What I was laughing at is I was just imagining the episode having another jaw-dropping twist where they get to tribal council and Janet's like, "Jason, I found this in the woods." Mind blown.
And
Janet
the editors didn't
idol
even
someone
allude to
out.
it. The
Yeah.
editors didn't allude to it one time. No, I didn't think you were laughing at that. That would be so funny. Another jaw dropping. I don't know if I can handle that after the Amy and Taylor bomb drop. I don't know if I can handle the editors keep doing this.
I'm not sure if I feel comfortable in the world anymore after that reveal. Just is everything my life a lie?
But well, I'm with you. I think any small positive to throwing this, if you're those three guys, is there's too many negatives outweighing it. So, okay, first, I just want to talk about like this pre-tribal scramble. First of all, just the easy question here: is there really anything Janet can do?
No, nothing at
No.
all.
So right, anything she could have done would have fallen on deaf ears. It's just a
Yeah,
horrible situation.
yeah, this is the unfortunate thing, and it's an
You've been in this
inevitable.
situation.
Yeah,
so-
yeah. The thing is, and it's a problem with the way Survivor is as a game, and I love Survivor. It's like my favorite show, but it's just a flaw with Survivor because you need tribe swaps if you want the game to be fluid.
Right.
But you're gonna end up with situations like this where there's just nothing this person can do. And
Right.
they did some cool stuff here, like with the twists and with the way the swap was set up. But at the end of the day, this can happen. And if you're
Right.
Janet, sorry, there's no reason for these guys to swap on each other
No.
here.
And to clarify for people watching home, because Nathan and I talked about this before we got on the show, this is not us talking about Survivor Angelica. This is just Survivor as a game, as a whole, as a format, and how it's counterproductive because you need swaps because you have to shake up those original dynamics, or else you'll more than likely get a pagonging. But like Nathan said, you'll more than likely get somebody screwed, at least one person in this situation. So it's just a difficult situation. So I'm with you. It's just an unfortunate part of Survivor as a whole, and I do think it is a flaw. But I'm not
Yeah,
blaming
and
Survivor.
it's not a flaw with the setup of Angelica because I
No.
would if they would have asked me like, hey, should we do a swap? Clearly, yes. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you don't want just Malik to get totally decimated here and for it to be like a very predictable like bang bang bang
Yeah.
kicking off here. But because of that, you know, you roll the dice and every once in a while you get Janet having no chance, you know?
Right. Right.
And you can work with twists to try to fix that, and they did, and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
No.
Um,
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
I genuinely don't even know what the strategy here is for like people. If you're so, let's say you're in the majority here.
Yep.
Because some of them are just really blunt with her. Like Kurt is like, "Hey, there's almost no shot here. I would guess vote for Chad. Like he's the most likely I'll vote for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably not going to happen. And then you have Brett and Chad who are a little more. They're not full on just BSing her, but they're giving her some kind of hope.
Yeah.
Which I guess that's good, but on the other hand, some people can be vindictive with that. And in that idol scenario you're talking about, sometimes if you get the wrong person, they're like, well, at least Kurt had the balls to tell me the truth, so I'm going to vote for Brett now. I just don't know what the right strategy is here.
I'm with you. Maybe, and again, it's also going to apply to the person as well. Like if you had an idol in your situation, Real Foot Six, I don't like. I can guess, but I don't know what you're going to value when you choose to idol someone out. We saw what Janet values when she ended up voting out Kurt. Obviously, she didn't say, but she gave a reason why she voted Kurt. But I'm with you. Just as far as these three guys goes, I don't really think there's any correct strategy in approaching Janet, especially with this twist. Like, in all honesty, like it was almost just for the sake of having a conversation. These guys were lucky that the fact there was this twist with the Skulls tribe, because there would have been even less to talk about with her, and even less of a chance of giving her hope. But I'm glad you brought it up of like, what is the strategy here? Because I wrote down, at least in my opinion, how each three of the guys approached Janet. And I actually think it kind of represents how each of them have played the game up to this point. So Brett, very comedically, yeah, he gives her a little hope, but more than anything, Brett is just trying to get information from Janet. He's asking her a bunch of questions and not giving her a lot back. and I'm not crapping on Brett. This is just what I observed from what we saw in the episode. Brett is definitely trying to get some information from her because Brett's in a good position in his original team, and not he's somebody who doesn't need to make some type of crazy move to shake up the status quo because that doesn't help him. Chad is a lot more, I'd say, Chad's a lot more, he's a lot better at giving her hope, but it's obviously BS. But he's trying to make, I think Chad is trying to make her focus on the other two, particularly Kurt. Like Chad just completely throws Kurt under the bus here. He's not even alluding to any of his alliances. He's not even particularly asking Janet who she feels good with on the other team. He's just trying to make sure that she's focusing on Kurt. And Kurt, like you said, is just completely blunt, where he's like, hey, your position is bad, so is mine, but I need to get to the merge to fix it. And right now, voting with these two guys is my ticket to the merge. So it's just I think that's very telling of how the three guys have actually been playing this game so far. And I don't know if it was on the editors' minds when they were editing these conversations like that, but I actually think it was kind of clever how it worked out because these conversations almost mirror how these three guys have played the game so far.
Yeah, it was an interesting dichotomy in that way. It's another one of those things though where Chad is talking about like, oh, Kurt, we're pretty sure he has an idol, throwing Kurt
Yeah.
under the bus. And in a sense that makes a lot of logical sense.
Yeah.
So you want to put them on somewhat of a wild goose chase, so they're thinking about that, not trying to blindside you.
Yeah.
And that obvious idol scenario. But you just like everything in this scenario, there's a universe in which Janet gets to tribal council and she's like, Chad was telling me the entire time we got back how awful Kurt is and how he definitely has an idol, and then all of a sudden Chad's game is blown up here.
Absolutely.
So it's just a tough situation, especially with this few people, because Janet's position is not only bad, but it's just numerically impossible to work with because she needs someone to flip, but not only is there no like logical reason to flip based on alliances, but like just in this specific vote there's no logical reason. Like the best you're hoping for is a 2v2 and then getting lucky with how the other tribe votes.
Well, not even, like you said, this is just such a hard position for her because not even counting the twist, like she needs at least two people to flip on one specific person because getting one person is great, but like since it's only four people, why would that person be willing to go to rocks when they have a 50% chance of going home in that instance? So it's like maybe if it was a tribe of 6 or 7, maybe something could happen here and Janet can pitch, pull me in as a vote. But like you said, this is just a numerically almost impossible situation to come out of because it doesn't make logical sense for any of those three guys to flip. And it doesn't make any numerical sense to flip.
Well, I'm curious about this. So obviously, before the fire making twist and all of that, if you get to Final Four and there's a tie, you have a tie-breaking challenge. Let's say someone is a madman and decides to tie this up here. Do you think they would have gone to rocks, or do you think they would have done a tiebreaker challenge here?
That's a great question, actually.
Because on the one hand, you would think like, oh, it isn't Final Four. Like they definitely draw rocks. But on the other hand, they've swapped into teams of 4, so it's not like they're being really like petty here and forcing rocks.
I've seen rocks go as small as with 3 people eligible before in a the tribe. But granted, the tribe wasn't 4 people. I can't remember how big the tribe was, but it was just a crazy tribal where like multiple idols were played. So it was like rocks were between 3 people. But like you said, it may be a game to game thing, like what Angelica does may be different than what BC does, so I'm kind of with you. I'm curious if they would have just done a fire making challenge in this instance. and they don't, and I know some games who like play in like a park or a public place can't make fire for that reason, but like, well, these guys can make fire. We've seen it, so they do have that option. So I'm kind of curious what they would have done here with just two people. It would have been very cruel, but kind of funny if they made them do the rocks with two people. But I'm with you. Just it's such a difficult position for Jan to be in. I was going to ask, just obviously we see Jan ends up voting for Kurt, so you could argue, okay, Kurt did the worst here. But just if you just had to grade how each of these three guys did when talking to Janet, who do you think did the best?
I and again, I'm being results oriented here because
Yeah,
it worked out, but like in theory, Chad's was the best because
yeah,
he got her to vote the way he wanted. But at the same time, during that conversation, I was thinking he's really giving a lot of information here
yeah,
when this could be a very just predictable vote.
right,
And on the other hand, Kurt, I guess, results oriented wise, did the worst. But I actually thought his pitch was very good.
yeah,
I guess it's just person to person because if he was talking to me like that, I I would have the most respect for that. Like just saying,
right,
yeah, it's not happening. Yeah,
right.
it's kind
Well,
of you see this a lot in these games. Just some people value more blunt honesty than others.
oh yeah. And full disclosure, I'm with you. Just like with anything in Survivor, there's no perfect situation or perfect way to handle anything. So, and I didn't expect any of these guys to handle this perfectly because what is the perfect way? There isn't. But I did think it was. That's why I felt I could ask you who do you think did the best because each of their approaches were so different. So at least again for what we saw, each of them were so different. But I'm kind of with you. I thought Kurt's pitch made perfect sense. At the very least, like it's just not going to happen. I thought
Yeah.
that made sense. I thought if I'm Janet, I'm like, but if I'm me, then I would respect that. But again, Janet was like she didn't appreciate it as much, obviously, as we're going to find out. But I did at least I thought it was interesting again how all three of them took different approaches because I will say as unfortunate as the situation is for Janet, doing these tribe swaps with four people on each tribe, you do get to see the game be played totally different because you're almost having to see people play as if it's like final five or final six in these type of decisions when there's a whole other half of the game still to be played and you don't get that type of mindset decision making this early on unless the tribes are so small. So I do find, as you found from how long we've talked about on this podcast, these are interesting discussions to be had as a fan of the strategy of the show.
This might be I've gathered this is somewhat of an unpopular opinion, at least with like modern fans of the show. But that's why I honestly normally enjoy tribes just getting decimated in challenges because it really forces people to like make the tough decisions early on.
Yeah,
What you were talking about with this feels like the final four, that was like a very similar quote to like what Jeff was saying in Palau, where
yeah,
it was surreal that they're at final 10 and Stephanie and Bobby John feel like they're the final two because they've gone through like all this turmoil getting their entire tribe ripped apart.
right.
It's just very interesting in that way.
I'm with you. I think the strategy in these tribes that get decimated is interesting. So it's fun to watch. It's good for the season, in the short term, I think, but it's always not always, but like nine times out of 10, they're just gonna get pagonged, by the tribe that keeps winning anyway. So it doesn't help the rest of the season. But at least in the short term and with these discussions, I'm absolutely with you because it does speed up the pace of the game in a way for one tribe. And it's interesting to see that as a viewer, knowing that we have so much left of the game to go.
with
Um,
with these situations, I don't think there's necessarily like a great way to handle it, But speaking as someone who has been in like a horrible like swap position before, I think
Right.
there are a few things that like people can do that if you're in the majority that are just bad.
Yeah.
Like, because there are just some people who handle it and they're just so dismissive, like they're really rude, and that's not like that's what irritates people because people understand most of the time like, yeah, I got unlucky, I'll go home, I'm not super mad. But sometimes people just refuse to talk to people who are in the minority alliance,
Yeah.
and they don't treat them right in that way, and that's where you get into trouble here, and none of these guys did that.
No. And I appreciate them for doing that. It was good gameplay on their part. But to your point, I mean, it when people do that to the minority, it's like rubbing salt in the wound. You know, it's like, okay, I get it. My game is ending, but like, I'm still a person. I'm
Yeah.
still here for the next few hours or whatever, you know, like, who knows? Maybe I'll even be here for tomorrow if we win some challenges. I know my goose is cooked when we lose, but like, let's just have fun. You know what I paid to be here. Um, I'm with you. It's none of these guys did that, and props to them, at least from a game standpoint. Um, so I was gonna. So we talked about just how these guys approached it, and Janet's uh, approach, even though again it was mute. Um, is okay. What did you think of the Skull team ended up deciding on voting out, or to their decision to vote for Brett here?
Parker, I'm going to laugh every single time you say the Skull team. I don't ask me why. Like if an alien came down and asked, like, explain why the Skull team is a funny thing to you. I can't articulate why. It just is. Anyway, the strategy for the Skull team. Uh, I found
I
it.
love this tribe name. I love
Yeah,
it.
I want more like biker team names in the future, like the the
well,
Ratchet team.
well, it gives very Australian Survivor vibes when when a tribe name is fire.
Wait, that was the thing?
Was it not? Maybe I'm misremembering. I could have sworn there was maybe a merge team named Fire. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
that's horrible. Like that's like one thing that stays consistent with all these versions across the world is people are horrible at naming these merged tribe names.
I I must go back to what I said in the first podcast we did here. If it wasn't for the fact I have notes, I would not remember tribe names at all. And so I am very happy I can remember Skull. That's why I like it. Sorry,
I
go back to your
These
point.
are three good tribe names: Malik,
Yeah,
Basra, and Skulls.
I like them.
I like them too. So this whole way they went about voting was very odd. Was it Amy who was voting with her non-dominant hand to like hide who was voting?
Yeah,
And they
she was trying to make it look like boyish handwriting. She said.
uh oh, I guess okay, I guess that makes sense to make add some paranoia there. I guess that
Yeah,
makes
yeah. I
I
think the
in my
only
head I thought that they voted separate, so I'm like, why are you trying to
oh
hide this here?
no.
So, and they spell Brett's name Breat, like, oh, he's not just a threat. He's a Brett.
I like the thought behind trying to make your handwriting more boyish, quote unquote, to cause paranoia, make Brett think that Chad or Kurt did it. I do like that idea, but even Amy herself said as she was writing it, they're never gonna buy this.
I love how boyish just equals like chicken
Terrible.
scratch. Like, yeah, like write it as though it's like a hostage note on here. It
Is she
looked
wrong?
very cryptic. It's like what a demon would write in like an exorcism movie, like on the walls and blood. It's like, Brett, you
God.
are next.
Right next to the Skulls tribe written
Yes.
out. I mean, there's a reason I'm not showing my handwriting right now for my notes.
So much
when you say chicken scratch,
supernatural stuff going on with Billy's curse and the skulls and the cryptic demon Brett writing, the whole shebang here.
yeah, and all tied together with Kurt's Columbo shirt.
Yes, yes.
So Janet is voted out here in a 3-1 vote. unfortunate for her. I do hope she had a good time playing. But the episode did not end there, Nathan. We
Well,
actually went
wait, there's
into our.
more.
There's more, but wait, there's more. I'm Billy Mays. We went into our next immunity challenge, and again, just kind of going back to your talk about how when tribes are this small, we see conversations that wouldn't happen until the final four, final five. Excuse me. It's very rare to see challenges with tribal challenges with three people competing.
Yeah. So there's really nowhere to hide here.
No,
There's no ball plucker position here. All the positions here are important.
sorry, Nathan. You'd have to have an important position here, my friend.
Man, no. So like the three stages are so it's the paddle, it's the chicken wire, and what's the it's the stick. Like
The stick. The
getting
first. So it goes. They create the long pole by tying sticks together to get a key. Then the key unlocks, or the key then gets them to the balls, and the second person has to maneuver the balls through the chicken wire. And then once that's done, the person delivers the balls to the third person, and they have to bounce it on the paddle. First team to get all the balls on the paddle wins. So it's a relay.
So okay, rank these positions in terms of difficulty.
Oh, great question, Nathan. Um,
Because I have a definitive ranking here.
okay. Because I don't.
So
So I need to
clearly
think
the
on
most
this.
difficult to me is the stick position. Because that's
Yeah.
the only one of the three where I think you could just be totally screwed right off the jump. Like if
Yeah.
you get someone who's just so bad with the ropes that I could see just a total disaster here. I think chicken wire is the easiest, and I think the paddle ball is second.
Yeah, that was the reason. That was what I was trying to debate in my mind. I was like, okay, chicken wire and POW are. I was like, okay, the sticks are the most difficult. I was trying to figure out which is the easier because I think chicken wire and paddle are both going to be difficult depending on who you are.
Yeah.
But as somebody who's done this chicken wire challenge before, it is difficult, especially when you've got fat hands like mine. But you can do it, and I do think the paddle is a little bit difficult, more difficult than the chicken wire. But those sticks, man, like especially if you have what your only knowledge of knots is like how to tie a shoelace, like you're gonna be screwed. Like, and I'm not trying to. Okay, yeah, I am. We have to make fun of Brett here, don't we?
Yeah, you're coming from an Eagle Scout perspective, so I can't make fun of this so much, but you can.
No, and I'm not even saying like his idea of knots. I'm only making fun because again, that's a tough situation. There's nowhere to hide, like you said. You're the first one, and you're so far behind. So I'm in joking fun. I'm like, God, Brett almost blew it. So all in joking fun. If it was not for Chad somehow catching them up at the chicken wire, they would have been screwed. So that it's all in good fun, but Brett did slow them down here.
Like if we're running this challenge, you're clearly on this phase, right? Like the sticks.
What?
Like you're an Eagle Scout. Like do the knot.
I've done the chicken wire before. I'd be more comfortable doing that.
See, I said that just as like a general perspective on difficulty here. Like for me personally, chicken wire would be easily the worst.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
well, actually, no, sticks would be the worst, but I would definitely prefer the paddle over the chicken wire.
Same. I don't want to do the sticks
Because my hands are not built for that. Like I could barely draw a smiley face, let alone like the.
like, but I'm with you. If I have to, I'll do the sticks. It's just a difficult position, which is why I have sympathy for Brett in the sense that you don't want to be the guy who goes first, and then like you don't even get past your station when the other teams finish and win the challenge. I get it. It's not a fun position to be in. Um, but it is the most difficult by far, which is which I guess it makes sense because the key unlocks the balls, but it's kind of interesting you'd make it the first part of the challenge. You'd almost think you'd want it to be the end so there isn't a complete blowout. You know, like the
Yeah.
last stage is get the key and then unlock a gate or a box or something, and then your team wins. But that would be my ranking on difficulty as well. Exactly your ranking. But I got we got to give in if we're giving individual props in this challenge here. I think Steve has finally. No, he hasn't. His team hates him. But I would love to say that Steve has finally gotten out of that mold of doing such a horrible job on the challenge that he won for his team.
So which phase was he on again?
Steve was he was the sticks. He did really good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I wrote down who did each stage. If you were curious.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go for it.
Steve, Brett, and Chelsea did the sticks. Billy, Chad, and Amy did the chicken wire, and Jay, Kurt, and Taylor did the paddle.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and Chad, like I said, finished like seconds after. I think it was Amy. To get Kurt the balls, so he really caught up a lot of time, and then Kurt, baby, he won it for his team, clearly.
It's I do think it's a bit of an illusion, the final stage, as to like how much someone could potentially catch up in that scenario. Because
Yeah,
in theory, like, oh, you could drop all the balls like that. But I think
yeah,
most of that element of the challenge is just getting a feel for it. And
yeah.
once you have two of them on there, I mean, you're probably not going to drop them. So it's
No,
really, and if you have a 2-ball lead over the other team, just take your time like Kurt did and get the ball in the right spot.
I will say someone like me would have more of an advantage if the ball drops because I do have long arms and I can pick it up. Whereas somebody maybe who's shorter or has shorter arms would might struggle being able to pick it up and like still balance the paddle with balls on them. So I can see that being an issue
Yeah. I guess I didn't
if
think
the
about
balls
that
drop.
element.
Well, no, I'm again. It's not impossible. I don't think anybody dropped the balls after they were already in the little spots. I'm just saying, like that could be something that you have to think about when you're putting people in this position, in these positions for this challenge. But honestly, very cool challenge. These relay types are not fun as players. You and I have been in a relay like this before. Um, but they're very exciting as a viewer because, like you said, there is nowhere to hide, and knowing that we're right there to the merge, it is so intense. And especially when you do have a comeback like the new Malik tribe, sorry, the new Boston tribe had. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Um, Skulls loses.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the Skull team loses.
Well,
Uh,
I do think they're skulls. I might have been saying it wrong.
okay. Uh,
Don't okay me. I'm trying to correct myself.
so they lose. Um, they're going to tribal council at the start of the next episode. I hope for my own sanity and general sense of like reality in this world that there aren't more shocking revelations along the way here.
Maybe, maybe, Alyssa one time went to the same gas station as Chelsea's brother.
Gotta get him out. Gotta get him out. It's dangerous.
That's as tight of a duo as Amy and Taylor. But okay, I want to ask you this in all seriousness. Um, how like Taylor is controlling this vote, right? No matter what, Taylor's controlling this vote.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because because in right now the way it is, there's 11 people in the game. If we're looking at original tribal lines, there's 6 original Basra, 5 original Malik. Taylor, if we're looking at original tribal lines, Taylor's like, Amy, I need Alyssa here. I want to go into the merge 5 and 5, but you and I are still a duo. Obviously, that is terrible for Amy's game because they can go in 6 and 4, and she's like, no, it has to be Alyssa. And the fact that Chelsea is her number one from her original tribe. So I do think so. Right now, the way I see it, I don't know if you agree with it. The way I see it is Taylor has a lot to gain here, and if she gets her way, whereas um what's her face, Amy, if Amy, I couldn't remember, if Amy goes with Taylor, she can only be hurting her game, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a difficult scenario here because I get the sense that Amy and Chelsea are closer to each other
Yeah,
than Taylor and
Alyssa.
yeah. For some reason, this tribe, I just can the names are not coming to us here. Uh, I actually think this next vote is very interesting.
Oh, same.
I genuinely don't know how this is going to shake out.
I think it's by far not. I think it's by far the most interesting vote we'll see so far. Not that the other votes were just bad or whatever. It's just this is the one where I don't have. This is the only vote so far where I don't have an idea of what's going to happen, and that's crazy because there's only 4 people.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
But you have to imagine it's going to be Alyssa or Chelsea, right? There's no scenario where Amy or Taylor go here, right?
I that would be truly like shocking just in
Yeah,
the season there if that happens.
yeah.
Predictions for next week. Who do you think's going between those two?
Part of me says that I think Chelsea might be going.
Yeah, I that's the sense I get too.
Yeah. And what message does that send to the like I know we just talked about earlier about Billy and Sarah talking about how, they're not OG boss or strong, but like you have to think what message does that send the fact that Chelsea's gone and that Amy was willing to let her go. I mean, if anything, there is an out here. It's like, look, I just didn't want to go to Rocks. These two, like, because in theory, take out the mother daughter part. At least if you're Alyssa, you have a great argument for Taylor. Like we cannot lose each other. We have to stay strong, right? Or else whichever one of us survives, there'll only be 4 of us against their 6 in the merge if it's going to go down original tribal lines. So like Taylor and Alyssa have a great reason to stick together. Not that Amy and Chelsea don't, but like you always have it in the back of your mind where it's like, okay, at least it can be 5-5, especially in this instance if you're Amy when you have Taylor anyway that you're secretly working with. So it's not the end of the world um, to go into the merge 5-5. It's just an unfortunate situation that she'd have to lose definitely arguably her number one in Chelsea.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of times swaps just shake out like that where you again these smaller numbers you really have to make difficult decisions.
Yeah.
Cuz I bet if you asked these you asked Amy, Chelsea would be one of the last people she'd want to have to flip on from her original tribe.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it was somebody like Steve or I don't know, like Sarah, even like it would probably maybe she would have like no reservations about flipping, just so there wouldn't be rocks. But like you said, when it's Chelsea, like these are her two. I would argue that these are her two biggest allies in the game, Taylor and Chelsea. She has no relationship with Alyssa, but it's like that doesn't benefit Taylor at all. So I think it'll be interesting TV. I hope just to see how it plays out. Taylor sticks strong to wanting Alyssa to stay, but we'll just have to see what happens. But my prediction is I think Chelsea is going to go.
I hope that they go to Rocks and it's Taylor and Amy. Really.
They couldn't agree. They couldn't agree, and then one of them's gone. I mean, that would be good for all the other players, unbeknownst to them.
Yeah.
It's
That would be
it's
incredible if that happened because the biggest like power duo of the game just got broken up by chance and none of the players in the game know that this just happened.
it's like if Stacy's Idol in real season 2 was actually real and somehow Daniel left, and it's like
Yeah.
there was no stress at all going into that merge. I love it. So I know this has already been a long podcast, but just very quickly, can we just quickly just go over maybe not every player, but just some of the players who were already in the merge, because we did see in the preview that the other 7 of them or the other 7 people getting their buff. Can we just quickly talk about how we think they're going to do in the merge? Maybe just no
Uh,
more than a few words.
okay, let me. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
I'm gonna run through names, and
All right.
you give me red, green, yellow in terms of like danger for the merge vote.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
like red is they're in a lot of danger. They're almost definitely
Yeah.
gonna get votes. Yellow is maybe, and green is they're not going anywhere. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
so
This is better. I like this. I'm glad you brought this up. Sorry. Sorry. Who?
Jay. I'm going red here. I'm worried about Jay in
I'm
this
deciding
merge.
between yellow and red, but it's got to. Well, the only reason I was going to say red is because, like, I would think that there is one scapegoat on on original Malik that maybe everybody stupidly will get behind. The reason I say stupidly is because it wouldn't be good for original Malik to vote out Kurt, but that's the
Yeah.
only reason I didn't think. But yes, Jay is still has to be, I think, in the most danger on of the original Basra. So yeah, Jay has to
There
be
are
red.
3 people who I think are, like, definitively in red, and I think Jay is one of them.
Okay,
Uh,
Jay's red for me.
Billy, I think, is green.
Billy's green. I'd also throw Sarah in green.
Steve,
Steve, I think is okay. Steve, I think is yellow.
yeah, because I could see it being a scenario where everyone's like, "Yeah, let's just vote out Steve, he's a physical threat," like,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of thing. Uh, and we're not really that close to him alliance-wise, especially after his ride or die, real game connection just left the game. Uh So I think Steve's in yellow.
well, well, it's like Steve is Steve is somebody who, if he could be in a fantastic position. The problem is he'd have to turn around his entire. The problem is he'd have to turn around his entire game philosophy for what we've seen him do so far. And the reason I say is because we've just, from what little we've seen Steve talk about strategy, he just seems like a very loyal guy, and he wants to stay boss or strong. So I'm saying is I'm not saying he's not capable of it, but Steve would be in a phenomenal position. He could play the middle. He could, because he's not in that original. He's not in the original Basra 5. He doesn't know that, but he's not. And if he did, he could go to Malik and he could jump back and forth if he wanted to. I just don't think that's Steve's game. So I'm not saying he's in immediate danger, but he's, like you said, he's somebody who if they just want an easy first vote to get everybody on board, they're like, okay, he doesn't really have any strong allies. He's a nice guy. He might get votes in the end. He's a physical threat. Let's just try and make this as easy as possible.
I maybe I'm gonna eat my words here with this, but I think Sarah is going very far in this season.
I think she's I don't I think she's at least not red for now. Obviously, depending on what's going to happen post the first merge vote, that's going to be very telling. But I think as far as who goes home the first merge vote, again, I'm with you. I could be eating my words. I just don't see why it would be Sarah that first merge vote. I just think there's too many reasons for it to be other people.
Okay, so
Chad. Oh, Kurt.
Kurt is in red.
Red, 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 red.
Brett, I would say, is in red. Like, they're
Yes.
already targeting him.
Oh yeah. And
Um,
Chad says yellow.
uh, I would say Chad is green for me. I just don't
You think?
see the scenario. Well, I don't think he's necessarily going to be in the majority, so I
No.
guess you could put
Yeah.
him in yellow for that reason. And like
Yeah.
maybe like a challenge outcome happens and he's like the vote or whatever. So I guess he's in
Right.
yellow, but I just with Kurt and Brett both ahead of him and the opportunity of his side like getting numbers, I just maybe like to me it's like an Edgardo vote where that's his like most likely outcome of going home at the merge.
No,
If
I'm
anything.
with you. The only reason he's in yellow is because if, like you said, a Brett or a Kurt wins immunity, or even if a Brett wins immunity and they look at Kurt as more, they decide to look at Kurt as more of a swing vote than an easy out for all parties involved, then I think it could fall on Chad for being a threat. But I'm with you. I think of those three guys, Brett, Kurt, and Chad. I think Chad has the best chance at staying, at going a little bit further, because I do think he, from what we've seen so far, we haven't seen any of the opposite tribe talk about how he's just, oh, we don't trust him and he's a big threat. Whereas we've seen now multiple times the opposite tribe talk about how Kurt is a wild card and Brett is a threat.
I guess thinking about it more now, I could see the scenario more likely. Like, okay, let me paint this scenario. Brett wins immunity,
Yeah.
and everyone and their mother has said that Kurt has an idol. So
Yeah.
the majority alliance just goes, okay, we can't vote for Kurt. We gotta throw our votes onto Chad. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. But again, I'm with you. I just think, I think that if we don't have a solid original Malik going into this, and it's the original Bosters controlling the votes, I think it's more likely that if Taylor and Alyssa are both still there, they'll survive. I don't know why. I just get that feeling. And I'm with you. It takes a few very specific things to happen for Chad to go, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, which is why I have him in yellow. But with that said, I think Jay, Brett, and Kurt are in much bigger danger, more imminent danger than Chad at the moment.
We don't necessarily know what the Angelica individual immunities will look like,
Mhm.
but just judging it based off of Survivor in general, like live games, televised shows, what have you,
Sure.
of all of these people, um, Chad and Chelsea would be the ones I would be the most concerned about immunity wise. Like they just feel like I feel like they have the builds that normally do well in these challenges. Can you see
Yeah.
that?
Oh yeah, I think I mean, we've seen Chad do well in challenges. We've seen Chelsea do well in challenges. Not that other people haven't, but I'm with you. I think if we're just looking at pure physical threats, those are two people to watch out for. Like, and and then obviously Jay is probably a physical threat, but the challenges haven't been overly physical, so I don't think they're going to target him solely for that. They're just going to target him because he's the figurehead.
Um, to be honest, everyone in the Skulls tribe I think is in green, which is kind of funny. Like I just don't think any of them, like maybe with the exception of Chelsea, I don't think any of them are getting targeted if they make the merge.
No, at least not that first vote. That's the thing, because we've seen something crazy happen at the first merge vote in so many Survivor seasons, CBS and fan made. But then, like, the next one or two are more just like fallouts and like continuing what happened at that first vote. So it's like the following two votes at final 9 and 8 or so, depending on what happens at 10 at the first merge vote at final 10. But I'm with you, at least for that first merge vote. I really don't see why any of the Skulls people would be targeted. Again, unless for whatever reason Amy and Taylor spilled the beans about their relationship, which it's like, why? Why would they do that?
Well, they've kept it a secret from the audience, so I feel like they'd be
Yeah,
able to keep it a secret from the players a little
yeah,
longer.
that's true. Very true. I'm not. I have confidence they can keep that secret. Um, and let's see. I was trying to think, but I agree with all your predictions, or for who's in danger and who's not so far going into this merge.
I it, it's counterintuitive because you would think that the tribe that's like stuck together through all these votes, they've survived it to this point, they would be more solid than the people who've only had to vote out Jared.
Yeah.
But I actually
No.
think it might be the opposite here, where I
Yeah.
feel as though the Malik tribe had to think through, okay, we'll vote out Kurt, and then we might have to flip here and here. I don't know if they're as solid uh, to get the numbers as they might need to be.
I'm not, again. I called it earlier. It's the Manu thing. You would think they would be more solid because they stuck together, um, or because they had more people to vote off than the other team. I don't even remember the name, the tribe name, but I know, like, yeah, they vote out Joe or whatever, but they they still stuck to their guns, and that Manu tribe was not together. You saw, not even counting the Rick Devon situation, they weren't. David Wright wasn't loyal to them, and that's kind of what's going on in Angelica right now. They have Kurt, who's kind of like their David Wright. They don't know where his head's at. They don't. Kurt doesn't want to be with them. He doesn't trust them. He knows he's on the outs. So did David. So I'm with you. It's an interesting situation where you would think Malik would be like, "Oh yeah, no brainer. We got to stick together. We've been through so much." That's not the case here.
Anything else you want to cover for this week?
I don't think we covered enough. Don't you think? I don't think we covered enough at all. No, in all honesty, I've had a great time. I think these 2 episodes. It's been a lot of fun doing a double feature. In all honesty, because I do think, like I said at the start, these 2 episodes did play. They were almost like the bookends of one story of what happened with this swap twist, and then what ended up happening with Janet. Obviously, we still have a cliffhanger going into next week. Who's going to get voted off on Skulls? But I really enjoyed getting to cover these 2 episodes back to back. Do you have anything else you wanted to add about the episode?
No, I just wanted to echo some of the stuff Angelica wanted to promote. There
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
be a new episode next week or this week. It'll be one next week.
I believe so. They'll
Yeah,
say otherwise. And they even put it in at the beginning of episode 6. Survivor Angelica is currently casting for the next season, guys. If you're interested, if you think it looks like fun and you're interested in applying, or you know someone who might want to get into these games, go to survivorangelica.com. That's their website, and fill out an application for yourself.
and make sure to subscribe to Live Reality Games on YouTube so you can keep up with all these insane people who choose to spend their free time playing live reality games, and the
Yeah.
even more crazy people who cover it.
I was about to say, like, those people are crazy for playing, but we're the people who don't even get to have the fun of playing them. We cover them. We're even crazier.
But we don't get the psychological trauma of playing either. So
It's kind of like the dichotomy between being a player versus production. Yeah, if you're on production, you don't get to have the fun of playing the game, but like you say, you don't get to have the mental stress and of playing the game itself, and you don't have to starve or be sleep deprived. So, yeah, who's the real winner?
all right. Well, we'll see you all soon. In the meantime, don't gamble all your money away, and have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.